Welcome, curious minds, to a world of knowledge and discovery. We're thrilled to present to you our video dedicated to Šarišská Trstená. Enjoy! Šarišská Trstená is a village and municipality in Prešov District in the Prešov region of eastern Slovakia. In the next segment, we'll be exploring geography and its implications for our subject matter. The village lies on the southwestern slopes of the low Beskty Mountains in the valley of the Šarišská Brook, which is called Stianka. The surface of the deforested area is slightly undulating to slightly indented. The municipality lies at an altitude of 400 meters and covers an area of 1.84 km 2026-71. The highest peak above the village is called Hago and has 642 meters. The village from the north is bordered by mostly mixed forests. The village is located 15 km from the regional town of Prešov. It is adjacent to the village of Chmievik and to the east to the village of Pro. You can also go south to the village of Iovs. In the upcoming section, we'll be shining a light on establishment. The first written historical records of the village is from 1345, when it was part of the Komlo. The landowner Nicholas, son of Dominic of Nabv, also took part in the event of the demarcation of the property of the Ebe Castle estate in 1345 on behalf of the Hungarian King Louis I. The use of the name of this village in the name of Nicholas proves not only the ownership of the property but especially that Nicholas lived in the local manor. It is clear from this that the local settlement existed before 1345. Mikkel and his brothers Jacob and Vavrinik used the name of the village Chmievik in the predicate in 1351, and the document also states that they named Chmievik and Navija in an identifying connection. It follows from the mutual geographical location of both villages and their names that Nav originated on the original property of Komlo and was a younger settlement than Komlo. The Nav peasants undoubtedly came from the branched Komlo peasants, while Nav originated as a peasant settlement. At the instigation of the peasants, it was built by subjects from Komlo in the second half of the 13th or early 14th century. In this part of the video, we'll be diving deep into 14th-19th century and unraveling its profound impact. In documents from the 14th-16th century, occurs regularly under the Hungarian name Nav, composed of the words above equal reed and above equal upper. The name was created by describing the geographical location of the property or settlement located in the upper part of the local stream valley. There can be no doubt that the Hungarian name Nav was created by local landowners. The Slovak name Nav was created from the Hungarian name by phonetic adaptation. In 1600, the settlement consisted of 5 manors of local peasants. During the years 1715-1720, 5 serf households gradually farmed here. In 1828, there were 5 houses and 43 inhabitants. According to the 1869 census, there were 63 inhabitants and families of Gritov, Sintik, Ruko, Vako, who still live in the village. In addition to them, the families Gbov, Jusku, Lorink, Motis, Arne also lived in the village. At the end of the 19th century, other families settled in the village. In 1876, Andrei Kendra, originally from Pro, moved to the village together with his wife Maria, born in and child from Komlo. Talpa 1879, Jan Talpa, originally from Haget, moved to the village with his wife Zuzana, born in from Komlo. Kova 1880 Andrei Kova came to the village together with his wife Anna, born Sabal from Haget. Frimer 1884 Andrei Frimer moved to the village from Tult together with his wife Albita, born Fedor. Ballet 1885 Jura Ballet came to the village of Komlo. Foga 1896 Jan Foga came to the village with his wives Maria, born Biskupov of Tulk. Planner 1900 Itefan Planner came to the village with his family from Vagu. His wife Barbara, born in, had a family and property here. The inhabitants engaged in agriculture and farmed the land, which over time they bought from the original owners. As we venture forward, let's examine 20th century in detail and gain a deeper appreciation for its significance. At the beginning of the 20th century, many residents left for work and earnings in the United States of America. In 1911, At the eastern end of the village, where the local cemetery is located, the chapel of St. John of Nepomuk. After gaining independence from Austria-Hungary in October 1918, the declaration of the first Czechoslovak state, the village became part of the two-week Bolshevik Slovak Republic of Councils in 1919, also known as the Slovak Soviet Republic. Its capital was Prešov from 16 June to 7 July 1919. After the suppression of the dictatorship of the proletariat, the village rejoined the Czechoslovak Republic. In the interwar period, the village then belonged to the district of Giraltovs. In the first great wave of addressing the names of municipalities, in 1928 the name was changed from NADV to NADV. At the 1930 census, all residents declared their Slovak nationality despite the fact 2 of the 14 houses were inhabited by Roma families. At the 1940 census, the population increased to 117 inhabitants. 2 years later, a census of the Jewish population was made in the process of Aryanization in Slovakia. There were no Jews in the village, nor were there any people who collaborated on the confiscation of Jewish property from the surrounding villages. During the Second World War, the inhabitants of the village from the years Jurafrima, Jinkendra, Jinkova, who died 2 years after the war, also fought on the Eastern Front. During the bombing of the Chmiev, evacuation took place and the locals took refuge in the families of this village. Specifically, it was the Bayin family, which was attached to the house of Andrei Talpa and his wife Mary, born Stankovi. The village itself was liberated from the fascist occupation together with the city of Prešov and the surrounding villages on 19 January 1945 by the Red Army. The liberation took place without a fight. The armed forces of Nazi Germany's Wehrmacht withdrew the day before the arrival of the Liberation Army. The first patrols of the Soviet Army came to Kopuni, probably also Šarišská Trstená, then Nadvija around 3 p.m. Soviet troops belonged to the 320th Guards Regiment of the 4th Ukrainian Front, led by Lieutenant Colonel A.P. Fokin and Major L.J. Rotin. Members of the 1st Czechoslovak Army Corps also arrived with these units. The inhabitants of the village at that time provided the army with food and pigs. After the end of the war and the change of regime in February 1948, there was a big change in the names of the villages by the Commissioner of the Interior, Daniel Otley. Based on Decree No. II 3/1948 of 11 June 1948, the official names of 710 towns, villages, and settlements in Slovakia were addressed. The village of Nadv was given the current name Šarišská Trstená. With the rise of the Communists in 1960, the United Agricultural Cooperative JRD was founded. The inhabitants of the village had contingents that had to pay the cooperative from the crop on their own land, which their families and ancestors, as self-employed farmers, worked for decades. In the spring of 1964, the cooperative merged with the cooperative in Puovs and Yelovs. The merged cooperative bore the new name ROZVOJ in English Development. In the spring of 1968, JRD Pro joined the ROZVOJ. In 1985, the joint cooperative had 395 permanent staff, of which 220 were women. The president of JRD was Ing. Joseph Jaka. The inhabitants of the village were Christian. And despite the persecution of the churches by the communists, the dream of one's own church was fulfilled in the Urs, as until then the inhabitants had to travel several kilometers to neighboring villages for services and especially the parish church in Puovs. View of the Church of Christ the King, which is a symbol of the village. The change came mainly thanks to the Dubik era and the first Slovak diplomat in the service of the Holy See, a native of Monsignor Iju. Itefan Foga and local residents who took part in the self-help construction of the Roman Catholic Church in Christ the King. Construction began in the late Urs and the church was built in 1970. The diplomat himself had a complicated entry into his native country, but in 1970, 1971, and 1972 he used a diplomatic passport and came to visit his native country. However, he did not live to see the consecration of the new church dedicated to Christ the King. On 28 March 1974, news came from Paris that at the age of 49, Monsignor Itifan Foga had died suddenly. After the intervention of the Vatican at the embassy of the Czechoslovak Socialist Republic in Italy, consent was granted to transport the remains to his homeland, but for unclear reasons, it was later revoked, and the day before the funeral he was finally transferred to Rome, where he was buried. Half a year after his death, the church was finally consecrated. After 33 years, on 12 December 2007 at 3 in the presence of the then Archbishop of Coes, Mons. Alodged remains were transported and stored at the entrance to the local cemetery. In 1964, a road was built through the village in the full section from Chmiev to Kopuany. In 1978, the work on the construction of municipal radios in Šarišská and neighboring Pro was completed. They were connected to the radio equipment in the village of Purs. The total expenditure was 210 CSK, and its first public broadcast took place before New Year's Eve. Of interest from the cornice, a strong flight of bees was recorded on New Year's Eve 1988, which is unusual for the given period, and a similar phenomenon has not been recorded before. As we progress through this video, let's shift our attention towards after communism till present time and uncover its hidden depths. After the fall of the communist system, the JRD went bankrupt and later disappeared. Land that passed under the JRD gradually began to be returned to them through ROEP Register of Renewed Land Register. Such proceedings took place in the municipality in the years 1996-2007. During this registration process, there were many inaccuracies and often inconsistencies with the original state. Many owners were long after death, and there was no additional inheritance proceedings, respectively. Often all passed to one legal successor, although the heirs did not reject the inheritance. In 1990, the charity house for nuns was restored. However, the church later sold it. The church was important to the locals, and about 15 women worked as nuns at the time. In began to build a new municipal office and culture house. It has been open to local cultural events and festivities since 2009 and was completed 5 years later, of course, thanks to European Union structural funds, which began to be used mainly after 2010. In this part of the video, we'll be diving deep into changes in the name and unraveling its profound impact. The name of the village changed over time. 1345-1351 was known as Nadfu. 1351-1773 was known as Nadfu or Kolmas. 1773-1786 was known as Nadf or Nap. 1786-1808 was known as Nadf or Naf. 1808-1920 was known as Nf or Naf. 1920-1927 was known as Nf or Nf. 1927-1948 was known as Nadf. 1948 to this day uses the official name Šarišská. As we venture forward, let's take a closer look at population and its impact on our understanding. The graph below shows the development of the population in the village of Šarišská. The x-axis indicates the timeline from 1826 to the present. The y-axis shows the total population of the village. Until the beginning of the 20th century, the village was a small settlement with a population not exceeding 100 inhabitants. 1869-63 inhabitants. 1880-39 inhabitants. 1921-75 inhabitants, 1930-94 inhabitants. After the establishment of an independent Czechoslovakia, the number of people increased by 56%, and in 1940 it reached 117 inhabitants. Over the next 20th year, the number increased again by 53% to 179 inhabitants, and in the earlies exceeded 200 inhabitants. By the end of the communist regime, there was no jump in population. 1971 208 inhabitants, 1991 223 inhabitants. After the establishment of an independent Slovakia, thanks to the development of the country over the course of 30 years by approximately 61% from 223 to the current 362 inhabitants, 2001 264 inhabitants, 2011 306 inhabitants. Nowadays it has a population of 359 people. December 31st, 2020. Colors. Id light green value ray, dark green value ray, its fondo value bidbera value ob. Image size equal width height plottery equal left bottom top right dap format equal c period equal frontal time axis equal orientation vertical alignbers equal justify skullmager equal gray color dark green increment start skullmanet equal gray color dark green increment start background colors equal canvas fondo. Bar data. By text 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 by text. Plot data. Cola bearer width alignluft. Bar frontal 43 bar frontal 63 bar frontal 39 bar frontal 61 bar frontal 72 bar frontal 76 bar frontal 75 bar frontal 94 bar frontal 117 bar frontal 179 bar frontal 208 bar frontal 230 bar frontal 223 bar frontal 231 bar frontal 264 bar frontal 271 bar frontal 306 bar frontal 362 bar frontal 356. Plot data. At 43 font size text 43 shift 105 at 63 font size text 63 shift 105 at 39 font size text 39 shift 105 at 61 font size text 61 shift 105 at 72 font size text 72 shift 105 at 76 font size text 76 shift 105 at 75 font size text 75 shift 105 at 94 font size text 94 shift 105 at 117 font size text 117 shift 105 at 179 font size text 179 shift 105 at 208 font size text 208 shift 105 at 230 font size text 230 shift 105 at 223 font size text 223 shift 105 at 231 font size text 223 shift 105 at 263 font size text 263 shift 105 at 271 font size text 263 shift 105 at 300 font size text 300 shift 105 at 362 font size text 362 shift 105 at 356 font size text 356 shift 105. Text editor. Font size pose. As we enter this new phase, let's navigate the complexities of local self-government and discover its practical applications. The Municipal Council of the Municipality of Šarišská is a body of the municipality and a representative body of the inhabitants of the municipality. It has 5 deputies who are elected directly in municipal elections for a period of 4 years. The mayor of the municipality is the executive and statutory body of the municipality. He is elected directly for a 4-year term. He chairs council meetings and signs their resolutions. He has 1 deputy mayor of the village. Without wasting any more time, let's jump into the fascinating world of mayors. Frantic Centric Independent, Frantic Centric KDH, Frantic Centric KDH, Jaroslav Foga SMER, Jaroslav Foga SMERSD, Jaroslav Foga SMERSD, Jaroslav Foga SMERSD, Jaroslav Foga SMERSD. Let's now turn our attention to municipal elections and uncover the fascinating insights it brings to the table. Results of municipal elections in the village of Šarišská Trstená present. Let's now enter the realm of important personalities and discover the fascinating stories it has to tell. Mens. Itifan Foga, the first Slovak diplomat serving in the Holy See. Mens. Joseph Kritov, Slovak priest working in the services of Holy See. Get ready for an exciting part as we dive into me photo, audio, documenti. De photo, audio, documenti. Image Slovakia Šarišská Trstená op view of the western entrance to the village. Image Slovakia Šarišská Trstená op center of the village, also called Valal. I appreciate your time and I'm grateful for every like, comment, and share.